Tick tock, man to walk. Your silence breeds complacency. Tick tock, man to walk.
Hello everybody, how are you today? You are tuned in to Eric Jose on Making a Murderer on YouTube. I go over Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey's cases. I also go over other cases as time goes by. I go over the documents, the pictures, videos, anything really case related for that matter. And I have many other videos that you can check out, just like the one you're about to see. Hello everybody, how you doing today? We're here today talking about, well, right, you know. So, I finally got the control question t-shirts. So, we can start getting those going out, you know. Now, obviously, we're going to have to figure out how to pay for them or whatever. So, PayPal is probably an easy way, but, you know, we'll figure it out here over the next week or so, I imagine. So, but anyways, they're basically at $15 each. There's no profit in this. What would be profit goes to Brendan. So, it goes for his, you know, defense and whatnot, and whatever it is, you know, for him, to help him. So that money goes there. So there's no profit from this. This is just, you know, I'm just motivated to get as many of these shirts out there as possible, especially now with MAM2 ready to emerge. So I think it'll be, you know, nice if hopefully they get a little bit of attention, and you know, and there's a lot, you know, get a fair amount of people wearing them, particularly get some folks there in Wisconsin wearing them, I hope. MAM2, which is coming out on Brendan's birthday, by the way, for folks who may not have realized that. It was, yeah, they decided to release it on Brendan's birthday. I'm sure that wasn't an accident. So, anyway, so, the thing about the control question, obviously, if you buy one of these shirts here, okay, this is the green one, obviously, and then, just so everybody can see, this is the blue one here. Whoop. So, there's the blue one. And then there is the black one. So that's what we got. And 3 different colors. So you can pick which color you like. So I have an assortment of them at the moment, but as they start getting bought, I may have, you know, less of certain colors. So we'll have to see how that works out, but I can always order more. Anyway, so the thing about the control question, if you do buy one of these shirts, right? What might people ask? Well, their number one probably will just walk up and ask you, what's the control question? Well, that's where you basically explain that, well, the state of Wisconsin claims that in the interrogation with Brendan Dassey, when they asked him about a fact that they made up, and the whole idea was to get a gauge of Brendan's honesty and everything. And they made up a fact and asked him about it, and he said no the first time. And had the state stopped right there, the control question would have worked out the way they wanted. He would have denied the fake fact that they offered. But unfortunately, Investigator Fassbender went a step further, and he asked Brendan, "Do you disagree with me when I say that?" To which Brendan immediately kind of gets that fear, like he gets the entire interrogation. Whenever he's afraid that they're going to accuse him of lying, or that he needs to be honest. You know, he sees it when Tom Fassbender asks him, "Do you disagree with me when I say that?" He sees that as, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. And so he immediately says no. Okay. People are then going to ask, why is this important? Well, the reason why this is important is because every chance Tom Fassbender gets, he goes on TV, he goes on Nancy Grace, radio shows, and he talks about how the control question proves that Brendan was resisting officers and that he wasn't being coerced. It's proof of the exact opposite of that. Okay? The reason why I look at it is because Tom Fassbender has been so vocal about it, that when you look at it, it's nothing what he says. It shows Brendan buckling under the will of the investigator and basically agreeing with his fake fact that the investigator made up. It wasn't a truth. It wasn't true. It was about a tattoo on Teresa Halbach's stomach that did not exist. So Tom Fassbender tells Brendan, "Oh, we know she had a tattoo on her stomach." To which Brendan goes, "I don't know, no, you know." Or they ask him, "Do you remember that?" And he says, "Nah," and he like shakes his head, or he says, and he shakes his head. And then Fassbender says, "Do you disagree with me when I say that?" Suddenly Brendan goes, "Oh, no, but I just don't know what it was." So he basically says no, that he doesn't disagree, which means he agrees with a fake fact. So that's why this is important. But when people ask you, well, what's the big deal about it? Well, it's because Tom Fassbender, number one, and then you go on to the fact that now a federal circuit court has deemed that Brendan's confession was not coerced because, and they cited this same control question as backup for that stance. So a federal court has now used the same control question, the same thing, the same fact. Well, I use the term fact loosely here because, as I'm going to show you in this video, part of the reason why a federal court can overturn a state court's conviction due to the strict standards of AEDPA, one of the reasons is if there's an unreasonable finding of fact. Well, you know what? One unreasonable finding of fact is saying that the control question is proof that Brendan was resisting officers. That is an unreasonable finding of fact because the English language tells us that Brendan basically flip-flopped. When he was asked if he disagreed with Tom Fassbender, he flip-flopped. It showed exactly how malleable he was in the hands of the investigators. That's why it's important, especially because you have Tom Fassbender, the state of Wisconsin, and now a federal circuit court pointing to it as proof that Brendan was not, or that he was resisting. And it's absolutely proof that he was succumbing to the will of the investigators. And that's why the control question is important. It just proves, and like I said, it's the fact, trying to say that Brendan was proving that he was resisting during the interaction with the control question is not a fact. That's not a fact. And then the Seventh Circuit en banc majority claimed that it was a fact and put it in their decision after they had said the only way that they can overturn a conviction from a state court is if there is an unreasonable finding of fact. Well, that fact right there was an unreasonable finding of fact, and you guys not only missed it, but you put it in your own decision as backup, using it the same way that Tom Fassbender in the state of Wisconsin do. So how can I have any faith in the en banc majority's ability to determine reasonable or unreasonable facts when they represented that fact so horrendously out of character and wrong? It's absolutely not proof of Brendan resisting. It's proof of Brendan buckling, succumbing to the will of the investigators, and agreeing with a fake fact. So that's why the control question is so important, because Brendan Dassey is innocent, folks. He didn't have anything to do with this. Without the confession, there is nothing to convict Brendan Dassey. There's no DNA evidence that ties him to this. There's nothing that ties him to this crime other than the coerced confession that Tom Fassbender and Mark Wiegert extracted from him. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple documents, show you where the en banc majority in their own decision tell you what is required to be able to overturn a state court's conviction. And then I'm going to show you in their own decision where they show a transcript of the conversation between Tom Fassbender and Brendan. And then I'm going to put a clip, the actual video of the actual interrogation itself, where we see Tom Fassbender and Brendan having that conversation. And I'll come on back and I'll talk to you one more time. Section 2254D provides that a state court conviction cannot be overturned unless a state court's adjudication of a federal claim on its merits. What this is talking about is AEDPA, the strict standards of AEDPA, and these are the reasons why. Resulted in a decision that was contrary to or involved in unreasonable application of clearly established federal law as determined by the Supreme Court of the United States, or resulted in a decision that was based on an unreasonable determination of the facts in light of the evidence presented in the state court proceeding. Now, their looking at the state court's fact that Brendan was resisting in the control question, they're calling that a fact. They're not seeing that as false. And so how many other unreasonable facts have they missed? Because we know they used that one to reinforce their decision. One more time, this is the majority decision. Signaling that the investigators did not overwhelm his will, Dassey resisted repeated suggestions by both investigators that he and Avery had used wires and cables hanging in the garage to torture Teresa. The investigators also tested Dassey's suggestibility. They told him falsely that Teresa had a tattoo on her stomach and asked if he had seen it. Here is the exchange. Fassbender, did she have any scars, marks, tattoos, stuff like that you can remember? Brendan, I don't remember any tattoos. Fassbender, okay. We know that Teresa had a tattoo on her stomach. Do you remember that? Brendan shakes his head no and says, which is resisting, which is what they wanted. Then Fassbender says, do you disagree with me when I say that? And then Brendan says, no, I just don't know where it is. And Fassbender says, okay. When he says, no, I don't know where it is, he is basically agreeing with Fassbender that Teresa had a tattoo on her belly. That is what he's saying there. So to say he was repeatedly resisting officers, why didn't he resist there on that one? Because he clearly acquiesced and basically agreed with Fassbender about a false fact. A false fact that was made up by Fassbender. Brendan just agreed to it.
We know that Teresa had a tattoo on her stomach. Do you remember that? Do you disagree with me when I say that?
No, but I don't know what it was.
So, there you can all see, that control question did not go anything like the way that Tom Fassbender, the state, and now the en banc majority federal court. It doesn't go any way like what they're saying. I mean, I don't know if they just think if they say it enough times that it'll somehow become true, or people will just forget and not question. I'm questioning. So it's absolutely proof of him flip-flopping, being afraid of being in disagreement with the investigators. That's what it's proof of. That's what it's actually proof of, and that's why it's so important. I hope more people begin to understand that. This is one instance where we can see that they are, blatantly misrepresenting something. And the reason why we know that is because they're deliberately misinterpreting the English language to do it. That's the truth of it. So, that's about it for the control question, folks. If you want to get your shirt, you can go to the Eric Jose MAM page, and there will be a post there that will have some information about how we can try to work out the logistics of how we get the shirts sent out and that sort of thing. I also need to go around and kind of get an idea of what the postage is going to be to the various places in the United States and around the world that I'm going to probably be sending 1 or 2 shirts to. So I'm going to try and get a rough idea of what the cost will be for shipping, basically, and then that way I can inform people when they buy their shirt what that shipping cost will be. So that's about it for the control question, folks. Most of the important information, what you need to know is just that the state continues, and now the en banc majority continues to represent this control question as a proof that Brendan was resisting, and it's absolutely not. It's proof of the exact opposite of that. It's proof of him being afraid of being in disagreement with the investigators. It's proof of all of that. And when you watch the entire confession and you see how many times they put him in that position, and that how many times he reacts that way because he's afraid that they're going to accuse him of being a liar or tell him to be honest or any number of things that they would do, that's the way he would react, and that's what it's proof of. It's proof that he was malleable in their hands, and that they were just feeding him the information so that he could spit it back at them, and that sort of thing. It's obvious when you look through it. It's obvious. Brendan Dassey is, in my mind, 100% innocent, and I await his lawyers, Stephen Drizzen and Laura Nyrider, when they basically, you know, come up with the next plan and start moving forward, because they did a stellar job. Brendan won twice. I mean, when you think about it, he won twice. He won. He appealed for habeas relief. Magistrate Duff and a federal judge gave him that relief, granted it. Then the state appealed. So then it goes before a 3-judge panel at the 7th Circuit Court, and there he wins again, 2-1. 2 judges in favor of him, one against. Then suddenly the state, Brad Schimmel, basically files what's equivalent of a Hail Mary. Okay, they filed for an en-banc review. Okay, to put this into terms that you can understand, to get an en-banc review is actually rarer. It's actually harder to get an en-banc review than it is to get in front of SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States. Yeah, it's actually harder to get an en-banc review than it is to get a case in before the Supreme Court of the United States. That's an interesting little factoid. So he basically throws this Hail Mary after Brendan's already won twice, and it's granted. The en-banc review is granted. A judge mysteriously steps down just when this is happening and isn't part of the en-banc review, and the en-banc review ends up going against Brendan 4-3. There was 7 judges, 4 went against, 3 were for Brendan. And had it been a tie, had that other judge been there and voted for Brendan, which it kind of looks like he probably would have, had he been there, it would have been a tie, and Brendan would have won automatically because he had already won twice previously. That is exactly how close Brendan was. That is exactly how close he was. And it makes no sense to me that these 4 judges in the en-banc majority would be pointing to the control question as reinforcement in their assertion that Brendan was resisting the officers. It's absolutely a ridiculous farce to suggest it. I would have thought that being up at that level, federal courts and stuff, that something like this wouldn't happen. But maybe they just weren't thinking. Maybe they just heard or read arguments about it, and they just assumed that without really critically thinking about it and looking at the words and going, wait a second, maybe. I mean, they're learned though. I mean, judges. I mean, you have to take quite a few, English and language classes and literature classes and all that sort of stuff on your way to be a lawyer, I'm sure. So I mean, it's hard to believe that they would miss it. I mean, it certainly stuck out to me when I saw it and heard it and read it. And I was just like, oh, whoa, yeah, what the heck is that? That's not proof. That's proof of him waffling. And that's, yeah, no way. That's not even, nowhere is that proof of that he's resisting. No way is that proof he's resisting. Anyway, so that's about it for this video, folks. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see ya.